Welcome to the Unheard Cries of a Mother, the podcast, where we dive into the raw, unfiltered stories of motherhood, the joys, the struggles, the sacrifices, and the triumphs. Here we amplify voices that too often go unheard, shining the light on the incredible strength, resilience, and love of mothers around the world. I'm your host, Sabrina Ben Salmi, and I'm inviting you to join us as we uncover the stories behind the smiles, share lessons learned, and create a community that uplifts, supports, and inspires. Let's honor the unheard cries and celebrate the silent victories of motherhood together. Help me to welcome my special guest, Allie. Allie, it's an absolute honor to have you here with us today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation to be here. It's an honor. Thank you.
Brilliant. I'm really looking forward to you sharing some of your amazing journey towards the end, but I'm going to get straight into some of the questions. I can hardly hold the smile back. I'm so excited about us connecting on here. So the first question I have for you is, can you share a pivotal moment in your motherhood journey that shaped who you are today?
hmm Quite quickly, I can. It is when I had to take off my mother hat and put on a care provider hat in terms of a nurse, a doctor, somewhere in between, when I had to take on a role that I wasn't prepared for. Was when my role as a mother got a bit more complicated. It was when my son, Ethan, at the age of 3 months old, had to get an emergency trach. He had glottic stenosis and nearly lost him for the first year of his life. I mean, there's something about a baby's cry, right? That's a very um, important bit of it, isn't it? Um, And as much as we're like, oh, the baby's crying again, I would have given anything to hear him cry again. But for that first year of his life, I couldn't. So yeah, I guess that moment is the moment where I had to just, it took all the strength in me to not only be his mom, but to be his lifeline, right? So yeah, to fast forward, his first birthday actually is when he received a surgery. They took cartilage from his rib and they grafted it into his throat, opening it up because at the time he had an airway with this only the size of the tip of a pen in diameter. So um, getting his trach out with this surgery, he was sedated for 10 days, and the longest 10 days of my life, when I just sat and watched him breathe through this ventilator, hoping that he would be able to breathe on his own at the end of the sedation. So when the day came on his first birthday and they took him off the ventilator, and I heard him cry for the first time in a year, it was the most beautiful sound. Um, I don't know, that's not just one moment, that's a series of moments. But that's when the strength of a mom really presented itself. And because if I could make it through that, there's not anything that anyone could do to me that, I couldn't handle. So that was it.
I want to thank you for the gift of you. This isn't the first time I'm hearing this, and every time you share it, it touches me really deeply because I was the child in your story and you're my mother. And it's every time you share it, I get a glimpse of what my mother would have went through. And I think I did mention to you before, like, I can't thank you enough for being so open about sharing that, because you always deepen something for me every time I speak to you. So just, thank you. And, I really take off my hat to you for what you would have experienced, because when you actually shared that statement of sometimes when the baby cries and when the baby's healthy, just thinking, I really wish they would stop crying for a bit. But you only know the price of how precious that cry is when actually you don't hear it. So yeah, very, very moving. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for doing
of
that.
course. Of
So
course.
my next question is, what part of your story do you feel has gone unheard or unacknowledged?
Ooh, part of my story as a mother has gone unheard. Um, I, I think a lot of it has been heard. I've been pretty much an open book, but um, I think it's that of how I relate to my own mother. I think there's a lot of that story that I feel informs the mother I am today. And this my unheard portion of my story would be that not as the mother, but as the daughter, and understanding motherhood in a very different way through a very different lens. Um, Learning my takeaway, my value add to my life and my role as a mother, that being of um, just staying strong regardless of the circumstance, because when my mom, when I was young, started off in a very difficult situation, and it was only because of my mom's strength that everything changed. Um, we were homeless, like living in a tent in a park, just my mom and my sister and I. I was 3, my sister was just born. And, the fact that she would tell me, we didn't have much, but we only had this tent, but it was the most well-kept, most clean tent that there ever was. And so it's like she had this sense of pride and of confidence to say, do the best with what you've got, you know. And she continued to show examples of that my whole growing up years. And our situation improved over time. And but it was only because of that will to do more, that will to be more, regardless of circumstance. So as the daughter of a mother, I think that's the unheard story that I would like to have heard more.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. What an honor for you to share that. And it's interesting, like as we become mothers, we start to reflect on our mother's journey. So it's really interesting that you brought that up, actually. Thank you. So beautiful. The next question I have here is, how has motherhood challenged your sense of identity?
I think it's with motherhood, there is just this, and fatherhood, I'm sure as well, there's this duality, right? Like there is me as an individual, and then there is me, the version of me I need to be for for my children, right? So it's been, I've never been a traditional mom. Always gone and done things a little bit different. And to say, like taking that duality, like the different hats, and creating one interesting looking hat where you can serve both, where you can be both at the same time, and you can be fulfilled in your life as a woman and your life as a mother in that role. That there can be, they're not two separate hats, I guess. It's the same sort of thing like with business and pleasure. Like, oh, are you here for business or for pleasure? And it's like both, and when you can be both and be present for both and take care of your children while you're creating space for yourself at the same time, it's a very difficult equation, but there's a way to make the math work. If you just, sometimes you have to sort of step outside of yourself to get perspective. What does my son need right now? What do I need in order to give him what he needs? Right? It's a put your oxygen mask on first before, before helping someone with their own. And so, yeah, I think that's the way of it.
That's beautiful. And I love that because it kind of points to the essence, like as women and as mothers, we are everything to everybody else, but who are we to ourselves? And I love that when you questioned that internal dialogue of what version of me do I need to become in order to serve my son at this moment. And I think that's so profound because as women, we're constantly you know, we're sliced into so many different segments, you know, like when you've got multiple children, as we both have, you're not the same mother you are to each
Yeah.
child, because they also have different needs, they're at different ages, they're at different phases. So you put that so well. Thank you so much. Beautiful.
Mhm.
Really is beautiful. I love the way you said you kind of, it's a culmination of all things and you get your own unique hat and that's it.
Yeah.
We'll settle there. I
One
love that.
wild looking hat. I don't know. It's
But
nothing
it
like
works,
that.
and that's it. Every family's different, every mother's different, and I really wanted to point light to that, because as the mums are listening, it's giving them that permission to just carve out who they are, rather than having to live up to something that someone else is expecting them to be. So thank you for that. Really nice.
Mhm.
So the next question I have is, can you describe a time when you felt completely unseen or unsupported as a mother in any capacity, even if it's yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically, I'll go back to when Ethan was having all of his health issues. And yes, I did have some family who could be there, but I think there are times where we almost self-isolate, right? And we feel unseen because sometimes we don't want to be seen. And so I think that's part of it. Like there was a time where I just sort of wanted to be invisible because it was so hard to deal with the reality of my role as a mother at that period of time that I couldn't show up in the full expression that I wanted to, or that I felt comfortable. So there was a lot where I was unseen, and that was by choice. So, and I guess that's not something I've thought about until just now, until you're asking this question, is that there are times where we feel unseen, and sometimes it's self-imposed.
Mm,
Um, so, but yeah, I think that was a period when everything was just a little too hard. I didn't want to be seen as weak, as vulnerable, as so I was unseen by choice for a period of
mm,
time until I felt comfortable with the reality of the situation.
mm. You know, hearing you say that, it kind of sends a nice, strong message of owning where you are, like just making peace and surrendering to what it is. And sometimes we just don't want to be seen. So it's not like people are not seeing us or not supporting. We have to get to grips with what's going on with us and then sort of step out and say, okay, I can deal with this now. Let me kind of show and reveal those aspects of me where the pain lies. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
The next question I have is, what has been the most rewarding aspect of motherhood?
Um, I think it's just hugs. It's the smiles. It's the hugs. It's, when they've left the house or out in the world, and it's that hug when they see you for the first time and all too long because they haven't come to visit nearly as often as they should. And it is that that first embrace that, when as I hold them as now a young man, I can remember holding them as a small infant, and to have that bond, that to know that just good times, bad times, that it's a constant, it's an unconditional connection, and because we as parents, and we think back to our relationships with our own mothers and the ups and the downs and all the things and the distance and the closeness, and that it's this ebb and flow, but to have that constant connection, that's the most rewarding thing, is that for a child that you bring into this world, they are a constant. And that's, I think, the most rewarding, because especially in the world the way it is today, with so many variables and so many inconsistencies, to have the constants of, that 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 a child brings into your life is beautiful. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree totally. So beautiful. Can't stop smiling about that one. It's so lovely, just the way you said it. It's just simple. It's just their existence and the hugs. I love
yeah,
that. I love the way you threw it in there. Don't visit us often. Come a bit more. I've got a
yeah,
son that's like gone off to like uni, and it's like, you can come back a bit more.
yeah.
So, I'm still here. Give me a hug.
Hello.
Beautiful. The next question I have is, what advice would you give to your younger self about becoming a mother?
The advice I would give is to give yourself grace, to say that you will not be perfect. That's the advice I would share. To say to accept that you will not be perfect. You will make mistakes. You will make huge mistakes that seem to be irreparable. That will happen.
Yes.
And to be okay with that. And actually, that is a piece of advice I gave to a new mom who was just about to have their first. What advice can you give? Just to accept the fact that you're gonna mess up. That's the biggest piece of advice. Because once we can give ourselves that grace to say this is part of it, it's part of the journey, and to say it's okay not to know how the kids don't come with instruction manuals. It's not like a bike with like, this is how you assemble it, this is how you like, no. It's just like, here you go, figure it out. And but everything is figure outable, right? So I mean, so that's it's just, take the advice I would have is to embrace the uncertainty, embrace the adventure that motherhood is, because it's special and it's unique, and it is uniquely yours. There can only be, there can never be another mother like you. There can be other mothers similar to you, but your motherhood is yours completely. And to step into that with confidence, knowing that you will mess up and that is okay.
Yes, I love that. Do you know, as you were talking, I was just thinking that if I got that advice before becoming a mother, it felt like a deep breath moment, because there is this pressure. I don't know where it comes from. I can't really say it comes from any one place, but there's this overwhelming pressure of perfectionism in motherhood, and you have to be the perfect mom, and you have to make sure that they've got the perfect costume, the perfect this, and the way you explained that is absolutely beautiful, because it's uniquely yours, and you're not the same mother you are to your first child than when the second one comes along. So I love that, the journey of motherhood. There's so many nuggets to take away from that. Thank you. Really, really beautiful.
Yeah, well, I think one thing I would add on to that too, it's kind of like, like a piece of like, the kids are not like a piece of china. Like you can't, I mean, you're not going to break your kid. I mean, kids are resilient no matter the mistakes that we as parents make. Like, it'll be okay. They'll be okay. You'll be okay. We'll all be okay. We'll all get through this, And so,
As you were talking, I'm just going through all the visions of, my baby rolled off the bed. I was like, I'm sure I did everything I do. And you hear that thud, and you're like,
I broke my kid. No, they are resilient. They're resilient beings.
oh, brilliant.
And they give us that grace and that space to make mistakes and fix it again.
They do. They actually do. They do bounce a bit to get through what the experience we have to perform. They do. That's wonderful. Yeah. I'm glad you added that bit. That one's really fantastic.
And to that point, I mean, my kid rolled off of bed too, so I hear you. I mean, they roll. It happens. You pick them up, they're okay.
And they will tell you. They will give you excellent feedback. And I think I love your response, because I think where I am now is not where I started. So I'm thinking of you listeners and who are watching this, to realize if you're at the start of your journey. I really love what you said, Allie, that you give that advice to new mums. Is like, at the start of your journey, you're kind of tiptoeing around wanting to do everything perfect. We've grown through that, and we realized those bits where we really contracted and was really stiff about what was showing up. If we knew we could just relax and realize they're going to give you feedback. Believe me, what you thought works with one child, the other child said that absolutely not. So I love your advice. That is absolutely brilliant. So thank you for sharing that with us all here. I've definitely learned from that. My next question is, how do you balance the emotional weight of being a mother with pursuing your own personal aspirations and dreams?
Repeat that one more time. I really want to take
Sure.
that one in.
Sure. So how do you balance the emotional weight of being a mother whilst pursuing your own personal aspirations and dreams? Because you run several businesses. There's so much that you do.
Is wine an answer that is acceptable?
Don't
I mean,
drink, that's a relatable one.
I mean, that's part of it. No, but you know, it's to not to try to, it's to be present with the emotion, whatever it is. Um, because again, and maybe this goes back to the whole perfectionism side of things, that like, I can handle this, everything is fine. Like sometimes it's not fine, and to be okay with that. So the emotional weight, the way I manage that is just to sit with it and just to say, and sometimes this is where I got it wrong first, because I used to try to like fix it. Something's wrong, fix it, fix it, fix it. And then it's like, you know what? I need to just let this be wrong for a minute. I need to let this hurt. I need to let this suck. I need to let it be whatever it is. And I need to just process this. And again, it's just giving yourself that space, that grace to be present with it, to sit with it. I'm angry. Okay, be angry. But like, it's okay to have these emotions, to recognize, to like, I'm feeling this way for a reason, and to not try to speed your way through it, but just to sit with it. It's strange. It's wild, because in giving yourself permission to sit with it, it will give you so much strength and so much confidence to give yourself permission to feel what you do, to go through those emotions. It's just like any kind of trauma that someone experiences, right? Like it's not a linear situation. It's up and down, it's all over the place. It's step forward, 5 steps back sometimes, but you keep moving forward, you keep moving through it. And to know, I mean, managing that, again, that emotional weight, it's just, what is it today? Because every day it's going to be a different thing. It's a different kid, a different situation, a different, you know, and then bringing yourself into it. Sometimes I imagine myself as a, this actually has been a good coping strategy. uh Imagining myself as a character in the play that is my life. I don't know if that's disassociation or not, but
It works.
it might be, but it works. And so just like, how would this, how would the character of me properly, like, how do I want to write this next scene of my day, for my child, for myself, for, you know, and just sometimes we get too close to everything, too close to this issue with our kids, too close to this issue with work, too close to things. And for us to simply step back, I think that's the best way to manage these emotions, these big emotions that come um with the territory of motherhood, is just to sometimes not push forward. Oftentimes it's more helpful, I found, to step backward, like just for a moment, just to evaluate, just to not speed ahead, because that can oftentimes lead to um, mistakes and regrets when you're too quick to act. So really just to process, to thoroughly process those emotions, and and just to sit with it.
I
That's,
love I love the way you've actually unpacked that. You said so much, and there's a lot of wisdom that you can each take as listeners or viewers. But what I really loved was when you said to just be okay with it. I think sometimes as mums, we don't give ourselves permission to experience that it's not looking pretty, and our children are observing that. I remember just as you speak, there's different memories coming out. Like someone said to me, don't cry in front of your children. And I was surprised. It was the first time I had heard that. It said, if you cry in front of your child, they will be sad all the time. And I said, well, I get sad sometimes. And I explained to them why I'm sad. I say, you know, mummy's crying because maybe I didn't get something I was supposed to do, or it didn't turn out, or I just felt unsupported. I like to have that teachable moment. And sometimes we're just not okay to say, we're having a bad day. You know, you're going to have good ones, don't get me wrong. But I really love the fact that you said, give yourself permission to feel what it is, and not, I love what you said as well about like wanting to fix it. Like, actually, don't change it, just be okay with it, sit with it. What has it come
yeah.
to teach you? So I think that's so brilliant. It really is.
Well, I think also to that point, it's how you just shared, like not to cry in front of your kids, but in doing that, in experiencing life, the full expression of it in front of our kids, with our kids, to your point, it's a teachable moment. It teaches them it's okay to be sad. You don't have to pretend to be happy all the time. There are going to be days when you're not. And there's gonna be days you're super excited. Like, we shouldn't discount an emotion because it doesn't fit the mold of this is the way it should be, because that's life just isn't the way it should be ever.
No, definitely. I love
It's
that.
life is what it is. It's never what it should, never what it should be. It's always what it is. And so get the shoulds aside and just, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, again, to your point, to teach our children how to manage emotions. It's to not hide them away, not tuck them up and, keep them behind a curtain. The last thing our kids need is another facade. The world is full of facades. And for us to just show the actual face value, and to show our vulnerability, it teaches them that it's okay to be vulnerable as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. And they figure it out. I love that saying. They say our children eventually figure us out. They figure out that, Santa Claus doesn't come down the chimney and do it. You've been doing it all along. And I think that's really powerful what you're saying. It reminds me of that movie. I think it's called Inside Out. I really enjoyed watching that with my children because it was teaching young people that we go through these emotions and they will show up. I have them and you have them. I've learned to manage aspects and you've definitely come along to challenge some of those and teach me how to manage them a bit better. But it really is a co-creation of who I'm becoming and who they're becoming. So beautiful. I really love
Yeah.
the way you spoke to that piece. Really nice. The next, did you have something else you wanted to add, Ali?
Only that I love how you said that, like, they'll figure you
Yeah.
out. I mean, we can't, because that actually just happened. I don't know if it was last night, the night before, but our youngest Forrest, he was not doing what he should be doing. And so I'm just there and I've got like the look. And he's like, Mom, why are you not happy right now? And I'm like, because you're not doing the things you need to be doing. But he got it. And so I was like, okay, he sees I'm not happy. I can't hide this. And so, but it became a moment where we could sort of both like figure this out together. I was like, well, I'm looking like this because this is how I'm feeling. Let me tell you why I'm feeling this. And so it became so he provided the opportunity. And
Oh,
you, Sabrina, you so many times you've spoke to the fact that it's our kids who teach us so
oh,
much. It's not just what will you teach your kids? What will your kids teach you? Because they may even teach us more than we teach them, perhaps. And so yeah, so to that point, I just, when you said that, I was like, yeah, he was the one who was providing the learning opportunity, because I was like, oh, you really can say, okay, I'm not hiding that well, and I shouldn't have to. So, reminder, Mom.
it's brilliant. I absolutely love that. But no, really to add to that sentiment, there's a quote. I don't know who the quote is written by, but it really says, when a child is born, it's an opportunity to learn, not just to teach. And I think that's so profound. So profound. I know that my life would not be as rich as it is today if it wasn't for my children. Have they taught me?
Yeah,
They have
exactly.
really taught me in all varied experiences. And motherhood will humble you pleasantly. So I know that I had the healing of, I didn't speak before. I was very shy. I was always really conscious of making mistakes. Now it's like, come on, let's just go. I've experienced all the embarrassment. They have put me in every scenario. I remember there's one story I'll tell very quickly. I remember I was upstairs, maybe seeing to one of the younger ones, and my older daughter, Lachey, she might have been about 9 or 8. And I remember she picked up the phone, and for some reason, she said to this particular lady, oh, Mum, let me just ask my mum if she will speak to you. I got that afterwards. So she called up to me and I said, I can't speak now because I was like doing something. I'll call back. So she said, Mum, is that lady you don't like? I was like,
Oh no.
and it was like this. And I'm just like at the top of the stairs, frozen, thinking to myself, what's wrong with this child? So she had thankfully got the wrong person. I had to explain myself afterwards. I just thought to myself, what you say that? So it was a humbling moment. She would just, yeah, they just do interesting things. And I've got an avalanche of stories. And I imagine that mothers, yourself, will have stories where you've just been put in a situation thinking, I wanted the ground to just open up and just pleasantly just hug me, not even swallow me, just hold me for a bit.
Yeah.
What they say sometimes makes me laugh.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Oh,
it's stuff you can't even make it up. Like how
mm,
you couldn't even, yeah.
yeah. So my next question is, Can you share a lesson you've learned from your own mother or a mother figure in your life that shaped how you parent today?
Mhm. I feel like there's so many
Mm,
lessons. Um, I think it's a lesson of accountability, of accountability. I know that my mom always held me accountable for different things. Um, and accountability, it's not the knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, you're accountable for this bad thing that you did. But it's both sides. It was accountability for the things I did wrong and accountability for the things I did right. And so I try to be mindful of that as often as we correct our children about what they need to do differently, it's equally as important uh, to commend them for what they're already doing just fine. And even the smallest things. And it's if the only attention they're getting is a response to something negative, then that's where they're, you know, um, that's when their focus goes. So to focus on the positive is just as important. And that's something, and that's a hard lesson sometimes for parents because we're always trying to help them do better. So, but it's not always course correcting, right? Because that's exhausting. But there are difficult times. There's different, you know this, but different
yeah.
ages and stages, and some that are really hard, and
Mm,
some that are really just like, man, I've got the coolest kid in the
yeah.
world. And then other times you're like, is this my child? Because I didn't make what. So it's like there's both extremes there. And I mean, love, love, love always, but to say that that accountability, making sure that there's the balance there. Let me hold you accountable today for the things that you didn't do right, and let me hold you accountable for the things that you did very
Mm,
right. And so to give a different nuance to accountability, to where they want to step in, that they want to own it, not only the good things but the bad things. Like, yeah, that's to take that and to stand in that.
I love that. I cannot thank you enough for sharing it. I love the fact that you made a distinction of what does accountability mean to you. And I think it's so important that we define sometimes what we're sharing because it means something different for everyone. But I love that celebration of that young person that you're nurturing, but also just pointing out some areas they need to correct. And you see young people light up when you that you're commending them and supporting them and saying, yeah, you could work on this, but I'm really proud of you. And they just like, they walk off, like just bouncing away. And it's just, or they walk off a bit taller. So I love the way you said that, like accountability being that we just, echo back to them what's working and what needs a bit of work to tweak a little bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I definitely those stickers like, yeah, this is my child. And then it's like, I did not teach him that. I just we have a conversation,
We
please.
can't have that.
And all variations. And I think I really love there's a common theme in this discussion. Like motherhood is all variations. There isn't just one thing, no matter how perfect it may seem. There are always twists and curves in the road. So I think that's beautiful. Was you going to add something else, Addie? Sorry.
No, I mean, it's just the more we're getting to this conversation, the
Yeah.
more we're thinking about just again, I think it's just like the nuance of all these things, right?
Mm.
It's not this black and white thing. It's like infinite shades of gray is what motherhood is. And so
Yeah.
beautiful shades,
Yeah.
some that are beautiful, some that are, crazy, but shades, lots of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm so grateful that you said that because one of the reasons I've not shared this, one of the reasons I started the Unheard Cries of a Mother was actually to create a space. It wasn't so much online, it's when we start coming together physically, because I want to do some in-person events. And just mums in the rooms, not necessarily anyone has to see it, we won't record it, we'll just be speaking. And one of the things I wanted to create a safe space. So I had a lot of clients come and we were talking about how we felt about our kids, how we felt about our parents and our partners. And sometimes when we share those aspects, people could think, oh, yeah, I don't like this. And no, it's not I don't like. I love them so much, but I'm even scared to share. So I don't share, I suppress. And sometimes there are experiences that mothers go through. So I'm so glad you touched on all variations of grey, because sometimes mothers are going through a really dark space and they feel embarrassed because, like, I've raised this young person, it's my family. And children will be a reflection of whatever they look up to. It's not necessarily everything you pour in. I've seen parents that have gone above and beyond, and the child's just gone on a journey. Eventually, all roads will lead back to Rome. They will find their way, and their way is part of their own life journey. It doesn't look like what we expect it to. But there's this something very profound about you sharing that piece that I want the listeners and viewers to think about, because sometimes as moms we do that. Oh, I'm similar, I'm not similar, I've got that, not got that. But actually it's all variations, and it can get very ugly sometimes, and it can be very scary, and that's okay. It's part of the journey, just making sure you've got people to talk to. So thank you so much for touching on that. That really really moved me. Really, you always do it anyway. um so my next question is, how do you define success as a mother in terms of the motherhood journey?
Mhm. I think maybe it sounds like cliche, but I mean, just to have a happy kid. I mean, it success, I think too often success as a mother, we equate it to societal standards, right?
Mm,
To say, oh, well, my kid went to this school and he's this and like da 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 da, and like all of the things. And I think my version of successful motherhood is that you raised a child who knows how to love. I don't care about the career they choose, the partner they choose, that they know how to love. They know how to be a good person. I think that is everything, and the only thing is that you raise your child to be a good person. And that is it, and that is all. Nothing more.
mm. You have a way of taking me down memory lane every time we speak, and I wasn't prepared for this. As you were talking, I remember the beginning of our homeschooling journey. And I remember we were watching these videos on TED Talks, and there was this lovely young boy, maybe 14, and he does what's called hack schooling. And he said, adults always asking kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? When we don't know, we haven't been adults before, so we don't really know. And then it was like, it was so beautiful. I think it was a combination of that and a couple of other videos we watched. And I remember sitting down with my children and discussing, and they said, yeah, it's true. Like, people always ask us these questions, and it's different. Not many young people know their purpose. Sometimes it takes a bit of time. And then when you're with your peers and they sort of know, they feel a bit embarrassed. So I remember this young man and a couple of the other videos, they said, in a world where you can be anything, why don't we just choose to be loving and kind? And that was the response of a young person that blew me away, because it was like, no matter what path I go into, what's really important is not what I do, what the salary is actually, can I just be loving and kind in that space? And that blew my mind. I was like, when someone asks you, please, like, just remember saying that, because it's not, I think people see my kids on stage and they see that as maybe that's the front end. But until you have a conversation, and I'm so glad that we do this in this space with mothers, is that public speaking was the last part of our vision. It wasn't in a part of our vision. It just became a medium from which we can connect to the audience. So when you realize actually what's the one thing in the world is the child being happy, being healthy, being loving and being kind, because ultimately as mothers, we do care about how they impact other people's lives. And you've put it so beautifully, but you just got all these memories popping up. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Right. Well, because and I think it's, if we can just think about, it's not the what
Mm,
you become, it's more like the why. It's more I wish the questions we would ask our children are not necessarily like what do you want to be when you grow up, the question of questions, but more, how do you want to show up in the world? Not what do you want to, not what do you want to be, how do you want to be?
Exactly.
Right? Because I mean, doesn't matter what hat you want to wear, like how are you going to wear that hat?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. And it's funny, I've got to slow down with all these stories, but very briefly, we went to an opening here in the UK. So if you go like to a grammar school or like a private school, and I remembered the headmaster, he actually talked about this piece. He said, like in every grammar school and private school, we have smart kids. That's how kids get in. I said the trouble that we actually face is people having emotional intelligence and soft skills. So it's like so much has been put into, getting the high top grade, getting this, but actually they don't know how to connect. A lot of children don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to love, have empathy, compassion. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they don't. I think the world teaches that because I think children are the most empathic, beautiful, loving creatures. They turn up and with so much joy. So I don't mean it like that. I'm just kind of sharing what he shared. And I thought that was quite interesting because a lot of young people are taught to perform. It's like, how can I perform? So someone says, yes, I can go through a square box, so to speak. But we have to be more about who are you going to be? How are you choosing to show up as you're becoming? Because you're always going to become. We're your parents, we're still becoming. I definitely know that. So I love that you said that. Really, really happy that you spoke to that piece. Really beautiful. So success as a mother, that's beautiful. Thank you. If you could rewrite part of your motherhood journey, what would it be and why?
You know, I don't think I would rewrite it because I feel like all of those mistakes I feel that I've made, all of the errors, all the missteps have led me exactly to where I am. And as opposed to wanting to fix or to change something, I think I wouldn't. I think had I not made those mistakes, I wouldn't come to understand as deeply as I do, right? The lessons that I've learned. And so I wouldn't rewrite anything. I know I made mistakes. I know there are things that I should have done differently, but for all of those, I now am in a place where I can be thankful that I now understand something I didn't understand before. And
Absolutely.
it's the live and learn, not listen and learn, right? Like we have to go through that in order to be where we're at. And now we can take our learnings and share them with other people. And I wouldn't be able to share those learnings. I wouldn't be able to say, take more time with your kids. Work can wait. I can't, I wouldn't be able to say that now had I not made the mistakes I did, because I did. I worked too much. I still work too much. But it's that reminder that I wouldn't be able to give to other people and to myself had I not made the mistakes that I did. So I
100%.
wouldn't rewrite a single thing.
That's beautiful. So, so true. And I really love that, the experience in itself departed a wisdom that you couldn't have had you not experienced it. And then you've got something to hand on like the baton, so to speak. It's really beautiful. Next question is, how has societal pressures influenced the way you view or approach motherhood?
I mean, I think it's always, as a mother, as a woman, as a person, we have the tendency to compare ourselves to everyone around us. So that I think is the most destructive thing anyone can do. I don't think there's value in that. And so I think when we're looking at societal pressures, it's that of like looking around and comparing, because you see the perfect parents or the perfect situations, right? Where it's a very traditional one mom, one dad, one house, so that like all the things in this cookie cutter perfect of what it should be. But to know that, again, life isn't what it should be ever. It's just simply what it is. and oftentimes what you never expected. And so the societal pressures, there was a time perhaps that weighted on me when I was younger, when I was a younger mom, to say that, because I was still navigating, I was still like trying to figure out. But now I think I'm at a different place, still growing, still learning every day, but at a place where I don't look outside myself, outside of our home, outside. I don't look to other parents to try to keep up with the Joneses. um, I'm glad the Jones have a great life. Awesome. We've got our own great life, and it's nothing like the Joneses, you know. And so I think that's fine. So yeah, I mean, I guess again, for societal pressure, I've learned to acknowledge that there is the societal sort of norm, um, and to say that that's not me, that's not us, and that's okay. So
I
that's how
love
I handle that.
that's okay. I love that. That's beautiful. And I think sometimes we have to do that as mums or as a family, to just quiet all the noise, because there could be a lot that, you can't even hear yourself thinking all of that. There's just so much. You're being pulled in so many different directions, and I love that. Yeah, definitely wish the Joneses well, but we are definitely not like the Joneses. I love that. That's really releasing some pressure, definitely, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful, because you spoke to that piece early on with the earlier questions about mother in the way that you uniquely are, because otherwise you do yourself like you don't do yourself justice by not allowing that to be cultivated. That relationship you have with that child will draw out of you a unique essence, and if you're kind of chasing another version that you're supposed to be, don't get to have that sacred moment. It's a very sacred dance with your family, your children, but with yourself. I love the fact that you point to self. I think because part of the aim of this is like, who are we in this mother journey, and are we in the equation? Quite often, you meet mums and they will do everything for everyone. My husband's favorite this, and my children love this, but well, did you put something on your shopping list that you like? So I really like that, just allowing you to be birthed into the scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really nice. So my next question is, what role has community played in your journey, whether it's been a source of strength or something you've struggled with?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I will say I feel that since COVID, like that, the great disruptor of our times, that's changed a lot of community and what that means and what that looks like and what that feels like for all of us. Um, and I think also, um, community, I feel like you have to create your own community. It can't be like, oh, I'm going to step into a community all the time. Sometimes you have to create your own community. And sometimes your own community is maybe just you and one or two other people. Sometimes for other people, like they need a big, ecosystem of people, of families, of all the things. But the community that we have, that Jack and I and our kids have, is really one that we just sort of cultivate on our own, but people who we feel help us and are in alignment with the same vision, mission we have for ourselves, for our children. And so the role of community has been, I would say, for me, more minimal. Um, and really in ebb and a flow, right? It'll be like if the kids have something going on where it's like the sports, and it's like, okay, community looks like this in this season, this next school year, so community has been an evolving sort of concept for us and for me. And I think for a while there was a pressure to be more involved, be more part of the community, like feeling like, oh man, I really should be out there connecting with these people, connecting with it. And for a while, I was like, oh, I need to just be more, you know, in community with other people. And to know that that's not a requirement. You don't have to be part of the PTA. You don't have to do all these things. if that's not a fit for you.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing, right? Is like, if we're mothers, well, then you do this and you do this and this is how you show up, and you show up here. And there's, outside of just being a mom, now I have to be all these other things too. Like, you don't though. And that there are ebbs and flows. Like, there's a season in my life as a mother where I will be involved this way. And but to know that community isn't something that is required in with your role as a mom. It is an opportunity to be part of something outside of yourself, outside of your home, if you so choose. And that felt good when I gave myself, again, permission to say that our community can be as big or as small, and there's not a specific size it needs to be. It's whatever will best facilitate my kids, myself. And so, yeah, it's been an evolving thing.
I love that. You know, you give so much knowledge and wisdom. There's so much that you shared. But what I do love, and I'm glad you circled right back and highlighted it again, is that permission. It's like, actually, like I have to do this as a mum. I actually, what works for me, my family, what aligns with us, where are we headed? And also seasonal. I love what you said. Things are contextual and seasonal. Like, actually, this term I might be showing up more in, bake sales, and that's what works for me right now. But it's you selecting those moving pieces. It's not stagnant, and it's not an obligation. It's funny, I was having a conversation with one of my children about the relationship between God and free will. And we got on this discussion whereby, if you had to love God or you had to choose, would it be the same? And it's the same thing, similar as, if I'm kind because I have to be, is that really kindness? If I love you because, like, I have to love you. So I love the fact that you're saying to mums, you have a choice. You actually get to choose. And it doesn't mean it's going to look like how it means for everyone else, but what meets your own needs? What can you also kind of fulfill, because it's demanding. If you've got a full-time job and you've got maybe 4, 5, 6 children, if you have one child, it's like, how do you meet all those demands? So instead of feeling obligated, it's like, what am I choosing to call in? What am I inviting in? More importantly, what aligns with where we're going? So I'm really glad the way you structured that, but giving context and seasons. Know what season you're in. I love that. I really, really love that. That's beautiful. Next question I have is, how do you cope with the guilt and doubts that often come up in motherhood?
Wine again, another. No, I'm joking mostly. No, but the guilt, it's
Allie,
like,
it's fine. Honestly, I don't drink, but there's sometimes I said, Lachey, you need to go and get something. What's that stuff called?
I so the guilt is, there is nothing like a mother's guilt. And it is it's one of those things, you have to sit with it again, right? And you have to acknowledge it. You can't, it's one of those things that I think that's the most dangerous things to suppress. I think that's one of the most destructive things to discount. I think the most important thing is to absolutely acknowledge it and to say, I'm feeling really guilty about this, about that decision, about the way I managed that, the way I handled that. And to sit with it, because if we don't sit with it and just kind of process that, then we're apt to repeat what we were guilty about again. I feel like it also gives an opportunity, when you can sit with that guilt, it gives you an opportunity to forgive. And to forgive that's the hardest person to forgive, is yourself. And so, again, all the more important to acknowledge those facets of motherhood that you feel guilty about, and to then, the next step after acknowledging the guilt is then granting forgiveness. And however you do that, and sometimes you can forgive quickly, sometimes it takes years. There are still things I'm working on trying to forgive myself about. And I think that only speaks to, though, if there's some comfort to be found there, I think it is to say that this guilt comes from a place of love. It is because I love so deeply and so completely that guilt is part of it. And that's the hard part of love, right? Like they say love hurts. It hurts, like it hurts. But it's the most beautiful hurt there that exists, right? And so yeah, with regard to guilt, it's just, again, it's owning it and then taking the next step when you're ready. And it's
Yes.
okay if you're not ready. If you're not ready to forgive yourself, that's fine. If you need to carry that longer, carry it. You'll know when the time is right. Life will happen and unfold as it does. And when the time is right, you will finally be able to completely and fully set down what you've been carrying so long. Don't get upset with yourself for not being able to set it down just yet. Carry it as long as you need to. I know there's someone who say, set it down, just set it down. It's not that easy. It's not. And again, giving yourself that grace to carry it as long as you feel like you need to carry. If you're not ready to let go of that, then don't. Just hold it as long as you need to. But in that holding, be looking for ways. Like looking for ways, like how can I feel okay with this? How can I come to terms with this? And I think there's confidence in that too. There's strength in that to say I acknowledge it, and so I'm working on that. And again, when you give yourself permission to do it, that only is an opportunity to become stronger, become wiser, to become more confident.
That is so beautiful. I really love the common theme that's coming from you, Allie, in that never suppress. Don't suppress things, address things. When they come up, show up and say, okay, I don't feel so good, and that's okay. I'm not ready to deal with this, and that's okay, but I will eventually. I think just the constant theme of giving yourself permission to feel. So you actually go, okay, you honor, you acknowledge what's happening in your life, but the way you've expressed it really gives the mother permission to really go look at what is that guilt rather than just seeing it for face value, allowing her to just unpack it a little bit. And it will come up. There's all kinds of mother guilt that we all have in our backpacks that we carry around. And I really love the way you've just really clearly described that whole journey with ourselves. And what jumped out is when you said forgive yourself. Often when we talk about forgiveness, it's forgiving this person, that person, but actually the hardest person sometimes to forgive is ourselves. So I really, really, really glad that you spoke to that piece. Really beautiful. Ah, nice. what what do you wish people understood about the emotional labor that mothers go through?
I love that you use the word labor, because physical labor of a child is so easy compared to the emotional labor.
It's,
On a scale to 1 to 10 pain, 10 being the highest, yeah, I'm at 10.
mm-hmm.
The physical, but the emotional, what was the question again about this emotional side of
No,
things? I
no,
was
fine, I go again. What do you wish people understood about the emotional labor that mothers have?
that even when it is unexpressed or unseen, that it's there.
Mm,
I think if to look at a mom and say, oh, well, they're fine with this, or oh, I guess they don't this, or like they're so quick to judge one thing or another. It's like you never know what anyone, mother, father, is thinking, feeling on the inside. You never know the road they've been on to get where they're at. And so that emotional aspect of it, I wish that people could understand, if they don't, if they're not a parent, if they're not a mom, if they're not is that it is ever present. Don't think for a moment that it's not there. Um, And just like we need to give ourselves grace for society to give grace as well.
Absolutely.
Because it's it's a way, it's a reality, it's a that is inescapable. It is, and I don't mean to say that it's all like this. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of big emotions, I will say, right? Um, the big joys, the big hurts, the big pains. It's all big. And there are some of us who wear our hearts in our sleeves, and when like we're hurting, we're feeling it. You're see it, and you're going to feel it. But there are those who, they keep their heart like tucked in really nicely, and but to never discount that whether you see it or not, it's there and it's being felt, and it can't be unfelt.
I love
It is
that.
ever present. And so for people just to be mindful, to give grace, and to know that there's a lot going on there. Even on the easy days,
Yeah.
there's a lot, right?
Big. I love
So,
the way you said that. Big emotions. Big.
right.
Yeah. So true.
Well, and it's like, and actually a friend of ours, we were talking the other day. So this being a father, it said, yeah, I was talking to my wife, and we're talking about the fact that when you bring a child into the world, when you have this, it's like a little heart running around. It's like your heart.
Yes.
And so you've got a kid, you got three
Exactly.
kids, well, you got three little hearts running around. You're like, oh, how do I protect them?
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know how to protect you right now. And so it's like to know that it's not just your own emotions tethered to your own experience. You now, as a mother, have a whole nother set of emotions that are tethered to this little heart of yours that's running around that you can't protect all the time.
That is.
So it's like you take on not only your own emotions, but the emotions of your children. And, if they're having a bad day, you're going to feel it. If
Yeah.
they're really excited about something, oh, I hope
Yeah.
they had a good day. I hope it was amazing like they wanted. And so your emotional threshold, like all of a sudden, you have like this much bandwidth to feel. And then all of a sudden there's all these other emotions that you got to like fit into this own personal bandwidth. You're like, I have
I
no
love
more
it.
bandwidth.
Wow.
So yeah, little hearts running around, I tell you. It's
Yeah, definitely. You need to have your own Disney movie similar to Inside Out. I think you'll be amazing. I love the way you explained that, because I said to my children, they may have cut the physical umbilical cord, but I feel like I'm always connected to you. So that was a really good analogy that you shared.
yeah.
All these little hearts running around. It is really.
Yeah. Careful with that heart.
We've
Right.
got our hands full. But you know what I love about the way you perceive the question? You really organically expanded it out to say, actually, the same goes for fathers and everyone else we meet. Just be kind. Even if you can't see that they're going through stuff, they're going through stuff. And, just be kind. So I really love that. Thank you. Really beautiful. So the next question I have is, what legacy do you hope to leave behind for your children?
Well, that's it. Um, Unconditional love. And I think there's been opportunities, especially with our older kids, where they've experienced what unconditional love means. Where other parents, other moms, their dads might say, it was still like, that's a love you regardless. They come to me about one thing or another, and like, with what do you think? And I'm like, I love you. Like,
Yeah.
okay. And then and what? And that they can always come to me, and I can always be like, and like, come with me like the worst news of the world, and so I think that's my legacy I want to give to my children. Not only they experience unconditional love, but that they embrace it and they provide it to others. That's the legacy that I'd like to be carried down.
It's beautiful. I love the fact the way you said, no matter what it is they tell you, you remind them, I still love you. And I think that's such a key piece for parents, because sometimes I know I didn't realize, and sometimes when you speak a lot as a family, you just assume that won't be an issue. I've heard it quite a lot where young people say, I just want to know you still love me. And sometimes we will not imagine that they're even thinking that. I remember Yaz came home, we were very young, she was in primary school, and we do like the SATs, there were SATs exams, and they were going through assemblies, and they really got quite depressed about it, the kids. And I was surprised, because we don't come from a family where I'm just really on their back. I'm always saying, well, if you didn't score 100% in the test, you come home, we sit down, you go through the bits you didn't know, and all of a sudden you've got 100%. It's about you knowing it, not necessarily just in the test. Do your best, obviously. So she came, she said, do you love me? Do you love me? And she was crying her eyes out. And I was shocked, because I was thinking, do you love me? Where's this coming from? She said, well, if I don't pass my SATs, will you still love me? And I was like, yes, you're not your exams. Like, where did you get that from? So sometimes it's not necessarily what's going on in the home. It's like where they're, socializing, their peer group, the school, whatever they're observing on social media now. So I really love what you say to your children, that, yeah, okay, I still love you. There's some parts of my childhood I haven't told you just as yet. You know the good bits. So I still love you.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good reminder, just to say, I still love you. Because I think constantly questioning, will they love me if I do this, or if I've done that, if I've let them down?
Well, the story that you just shared speaks to the fact that it's so important. I think oftentimes as parents, here's another mistake that we make, is that we say, well, of course they know that. Well, of course they know. Of course they this, of course they that. But not always. And so it is always important. My husband, Jack, he's so good at always, whenever we go to sleep at night, whenever we say bye to the kids, it's always throwing up the I love you sign. Whenever seeing him off to school, we lock in the love. So there's always like this symbol of love. And so it's always this reminder, because to your point, they can get so out in the world of things and get so distracted by different things that sometimes they don't even know that they've forgotten what you've reminded them of, what you've instilled in them. And so we have to keep that constant, reminder. And even if they know they know that I love them, but to remind them of that, because they can forget.
Yes, very true. Very, very true. Love that. Next question is, how has motherhood transformed your relationships, be that with your partner, friends, family, whichever one stands out?
I think it's provided opportunities to have conversations that we wouldn't have otherwise. I think it has provided opportunities to find new common ground. Anytime, it's served as another common denominator, right? So it's like, whether it's a complete stranger, like, oh, you're a mom too. Oh, hey, so
Exactly.
what are the first questions we ask? How many kids do you have? What are their ages? Da 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 da. And so we get into this thing about like, now we're connected. Now I feel you. Now I know you in a different way. And so I think it's just that base level of connection that the role of a mother offers you, as the opportunity to connect with people in different ways. Like, now that you're in the moms club, you get, not only can you connect with other moms, but connect with your own mother in a way that you didn't before. New conversations there, now having one with your grandparents, with aunts, with, so people close to you, but also with friends, and those who have kids and those who do not, to be able to say, well, I've got a story for you. Let me just tell you. And so it's a way to, it's another like lens to look at life through. And the more lenses we have, the more full, the more rich our perspective can be, right? So, yeah. And, so it's a beautiful lens, and I think that's what it offers up to other relationships.
Common denominator, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, I love that. It's so relatable. So what's the most unexpected lesson that you've learned from your children?
Wow. They, that memories are forever. The memories I've made, the memories that we talk about even to this day, like with my older kids, with the younger ones that were the early memories are just being made. Those where we're looking back, the early ones that were made years ago, it's that. Um, so I guess the lesson that I've learned there is just to really be present as much as possible. Um, because they grow up so quickly, and it's only and it's this to keep that in mind, especially on the hard days. To say when it's like an impossible day, Jack, thank God I have Jack in my life, and he makes me a better mother every
Mm.
day. Every day he makes me a better mom.
God.
Um, because he's the very first when he'll see me like getting frustrated, like, oh, and to say they're only young, like they're, and I'm like, and then I can't help but think back to when he was just taking his first steps, and he was just,
Yeah.
all these things, and it's like that reminder is so important because it keeps you present. It
Very
keeps you present, and to know that the things that we're doing today, the moments today are going to be the memories tomorrow,
yeah.
right? And even now with our 6-year-old, he'll say something like, oh, remember that time when, and I'm like he's already has these little memories, these little, and I'm like, yeah, I do. But it's funny the things that they'll remember, and the good and the bad.
Mm.
So to be present and to really do show up the best that we can in the moments we have today, because they will become, good or bad, the memories of that will be tomorrow. So um yeah, it's just they've they've taught me to be present, and it's a reminder I have to keep giving to myself. But I'm always so thankful when I can and when I do, and thank goodness for those around us. For me, it's Jack who will say, hey, and he will slow me down um when I'm going at a speed that's that's not right. That's not right for now, you know. So
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, it's so funny talking to you. It's beautiful. I love that. Just hold the memories of the good ones when it shows up. Just remember that they go up quickly, so just enjoy
yeah.
the bad days. I love that. That is
True.
so so true. That's a definite nugget.
Yeah.
Oh, but I love that. It is the memories that we create together. They will last a lifetime. That's beautiful. Really, really nice. And it's nice to have you as part of our memories, like being out in Dubai. That's a very core memory for my little
Yes,
one. So
yes.
lovely. So my next question is, if you could change one thing about how society view or supports mothers, what would it be?
Mm, I think I think it would be to celebrate as opposed to condemn, right? We are
Mm,
so quick to judge. This is how a mother should react. This is how a mother should respond. This is how, as opposed to being, you know, to it goes back to the word of grace, like just to give people grace to show up. Like motherhood is hard enough as it is. It's hard enough to be a person.
yes, exactly.
It's hard enough to
Exactly.
just be a person. Like being a person's hard. And then when you take on this role, that role, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a that. Like there's so many, again, all of the hats of it,
Yes.
to say like okay, she wears her hat like that. Like, she wears it well. Maybe it's not the hat I wouldn't wear that
Yeah.
hat, but she's wearing it. Like, good on you. Like, cool. We don't have to be present for each other as opposed to be in judgment of each other. I think society's place, I would love to be one of just support. Like, life is hard enough, like, as opposed to have outside judge. We judge ourselves enough. The last thing we need is other people judging, right? So it's like, as opposed to like, what should they be doing? How can I be of service? Like, how can I show up? Not how are they showing up? How can I show up?
Yes, I love
Right.
that.
So,
I love that. It's beautiful. And imagine like how different society will shift if we look at people from the place of how can I serve them rather than judging and knocking them. You know, they're wearing their hat like that and we don't know their journey. And like you
yeah,
said before, we don't know what they're dealing with. So just
yeah,
be kind. I love that.
yeah.
It's beautiful. What's the most misunderstood part of your motherhood journey?
Ooh, the most misunderstood part. I think it's probably been of not how I've been misunderstood, but how I have misunderstood my
Mm.
journey. So I think there have been times where I have misunderstood where I can look back. And I think this is where the guilt and all the things where I said, well, this is my intention in this. And that, well, because this was the intention, that then that was the right course to
Mm.
take. That was the right way to go. But there are times when, despite intention, it wasn't the right call to make. Right. So for me, that's the biggest misunderstanding of my personal journey, is my own misunderstanding, not how I've been understood or misunderstood, but how I have understood or not understood different chapters of my journey as a mother. And so um, it's it's those where I move forward as I did, making the choices and the calls I did based on a specific intention that was pure, that was aligned. And again, well, pure as it may, it did not serve the way it needed to.
Wow.
So,
I
yeah.
love the way you actually owned that question and repurposed it. I think that's a really powerful message that you shared there. Very powerful. That's very moving, very profound, very, very deeply profound. My next question is, how has motherhood changed your perspective of yourself and life in general?
I think it's made me a more complete expression of myself. Because again, it's like when you are managing your own existence and your own emotions in that human experience that you're having. Now you have all these other human experiences that you're tethered and tied to, and you're like, okay. So the perception of myself, what motherhood has done as challenged me. It's pointed out, I know I've never been hurt at all, not close to it. Motherhood said, but let me just tell you, you're really not perfect. So I found a lot more. I'm like, there's that too. I have to add that to the list of the, okay. So, but in that, I mean, what a beautiful way to, again, become a better version of myself in finding, like you were saying, finding the bits that need to be worked on, right? Like your daughter, like, okay, so you didn't get 100, like, okay, so let's fix those bits and whatnot. And so it's really given me an opportunity to find more places of improvement in myself, which is an incredible gift, you know, um, to be able to become a better version, because I'm seeing, these things where there's room for improvement,
Yeah,
So,
nice. That's beautiful. Definitely. So next question is, what parts of you did you have to sacrifice to become a mom?
To say you can't have it all to give it all.
Mm.
Right. And so there was that, and I mean, that's something that, Jack and I have talked quite a bit about. It's like, we could be living in France right now, and da 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 da. Like, these are the things that our life could be this, we could be that. And it's like, but you can't have it all to give it all. And so what's more important? And he and I both, like him as a father and me as a mother, to say that it is that we want to be able to give to our children this or that. And so to give this, we can't have that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's been a big acknowledgement and acceptance, because there's a difference there, right? To acknowledge the case of it and to accept it.
Totally different. So, I love that. Beautiful. Who was you before you became a mother?
Who was I before I became a mother?
Yeah, what was you like? Your face.
Whoa, girl. I'm the same but different, I guess, because I'm still the same, like energetically, I'm still the same. I still hold the same perspectives. I used to be very, I guess the one thing that's changed is completely fearless. Now having a bit more fear, not because of anything about me, but again, it's those little hearts running around. Like, ah! So yes, the motherhood induced fear. But again, in a good way, because it's that fear that is like just an expression of love.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm more fearful now with love. Yeah. I don't know if that's
makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Right. So it's like, because I used to walk down like downtown San Francisco, downtown LA, all by myself. Like, I used to love to get lost places because I get to have a new experience. And oh, I've never been to this place. Let's just go there and figure it out. And that used to be the way that my life was. And now, while I am still the same person, I'm in this different place now as a mother. So that same person in this place in my life, there is more caution, a little more caution. And so, but besides that, I think I've pretty much retained me. And again, I think it's finding just holding, like preserving that part of you, to say that you don't have to be a different person. You can be just a different version of that person, but still carry that same spark, that same energy, that same perspective, and then just like shape it or mold it into this or to that. And so I think that's important, to be you, to be who you were, to like, you can't disassociate. There can't be a disconnect there. You have to retain that same, and again, might be a different expression of that same person. It can be an evolution of that person. But to not do away with her and step into something different, but to, with pride, with confidence, to carry on with that same expression. But again, now with a little bit more caution.
Yeah, definitely. I totally relate to that. Totally. So in your own words, like what is the gift of motherhood?
The gift of motherhood is, I think it is, it's such a big gift. I don't, as much as I love words, I don't know that I have a word for it. I suppose I could use my favorite word. So my favorite word is ineffable. Which is random, because ineffable simply just means like that which cannot be defined by words, and yet it's my favorite word.
Yeah.
But I think that about,
It's true. Like
yeah,
sometimes what the spirit experiences can't be articulated.
yeah,
That's not
yeah.
our first form of communication is not words. So
Yeah,
some
so that's what I would say. I would say that motherhood is a gift that cannot be defined. It can't be expressed, it can only be known. Like
mm,
it can only be felt. It can't be, I don't think it can be, because it is such a, it's a whole existence, right? Motherhood is an existence. I dare say it's not just a role that you serve. It is an existence
mm,
that you experience, that you become. Just like you can be a human, you're having a human experience, you're having a motherhood experience. Like, so
yeah,
as a mother, it's an experience, and it is such a beautiful, profound, immense gift that never stops giving. Right? Like, because no matter if you're a mom with all kinds of beautiful, healthy children, or a mom who maybe had only one,
yeah,
who is no longer here,
very true.
that it is still, to have had that experience, to have, even with loss,
Yes.
it's so beautiful. Even with the most horrible imaginable loss any mother could imagine, in losing a child, even then, how beautiful and how pure that bond, that existence is.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And I'm so glad that you're very good at expanding whatever it is that's kind of presented to you, expand to include other people. I think it's so important for listeners because mothers come from all different walks of life. Some of us didn't actually get to hold our babies. So I'm really glad that you touched on that. Thank you very much. So I've got a few trivial questions. We've done a chunk of the interview, and I really thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. So we've got some trivia questions here.
Okay.
This one I really love. I love the titles. So the first question here is, if each of your children were to write a book about you, we could do you and your husband or just about you, is up to you. What would the title be?
um um it would be, specifically, I can say, if my two older boys wrote a book, it would be called It's Just Sprinkling. And
Oh,
there's a story about that, because we were going to be going camping, and it was one summer day. We're going to go to the beach, we're going to go camping. And then it started, I was like, ooh, I don't know, there's going to be some rain, and looks like it's going to be pretty bad. And they're like, but mom, it's just, no. The title of the book, It's Just Misting. It's Just Misting.
God, it's just.
So we pack up, we make preparations. I'm like, guys, I don't know. And like, this is all the night before it's supposed to rain, supposed to thunder, da da da. So we ended up, they talked me into it. They're like, no, it's okay. And so I'm like, so we get on the road. As soon as we are about halfway there, because it's a long trip there, all of a sudden it starts misting. And I'm like, and I look in the rear view mirror and I'm looking back. And they're like, Mom, it's just misting. And they're like laughing about it. All of a sudden, you hear the
Oh
thunder come. And
no!
I'm like, and I'm looking in the rear view mirror. All of a sudden, it's a downpour. It's like lightning and thunder. And it's like, I had to pull off the side of the road. And I was like, misting? It's like laughing, like hysterically, like crying. They're laughing so hard. And so
Oh,
to this day,
that's
now,
brilliant.
they still say, no, it's just misting. And I'm like, and they're like grown men now, and they're like saying this to me. I'm like, mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what they would call it. It's just misting, because but the book would be about just not being afraid to take a chance. Like, we would do the
Mm,
craziest things and like the most random of things. And um, so it's just misting is what they call
I love that. Makes me feel I would like to read that book.
it.
That's brilliant. I love
Yeah.
that. So the next question I've got is, what's the funniest mum fail moment you've had?
There are too many. I don't know if we have to. Oh, um, Oh, actually, you know what? This was a mom and dad fail. This is me and Jack. We were partners in crime in this one. And it's just ridiculous. Again, COVID, I will say, messed up everyone's calendars and
All relate.
forever and always. So this was like last Easter. And so we're getting ready for Easter, and like we did like the whole like get the baskets ready and all the things and whatnot. And so we get them up and like, oh, the Easter Bunny came. And so we get the kids out of bed. And at that time it was our 15-year-old, our 5-year-old, and our 8-year-old. And so they're like getting into their Easter baskets and stuff. And we're like getting ready to have a nice little Easter. It's like, okay, well, what should we do for our Easter dinner? All the things. And I'm like looking and I'm like, I was gonna send out happy Easter messages to my family. And I'm like, well, this is weird. We've not got a single message from anyone. So I go and I say, Happy Easter to my sister, and she's like, Happy Easter. Huh? And I was like, Jack, we looked at the calendar. I was like, it's not until next week. So we had a early Easter. I was like, well, and they're like, how did I was like, the Easter Bunny was early because we've got a couple who are still like believing in such
Oh, that
things.
is
And
so
so
fantastic.
yeah, so that was like the funniest top of mind. Every day we mess something up that's hysterical,
Oh,
but that is one of them that I was like, how can we even? And I was like, we were so close to posting on social media Easter pictures, like Happy Easter, everyone. And then I'm like, I'm glad we didn't go that far.
oh God. Totally relatable. I'm sure that mums would be able to relate to stories like that. Showing up early. That's so funny.
At
Oh
least we
God.
showed up.
Exactly. Oh gosh. Right. So where is your go-to hideout when you need a break?
Hmm. My computer. Mom's gotta send an email with a glass of wine.
Oh, that's a brilliant anchor. Basically, you enter and everyone just knows what to do, even if you're not doing anything.
I mean, sometimes that's it. Other times, actually, the other one is I actually the when I need a break, when I need just like a space, sometimes it's actually with my kids and we go to the thrift store. And I said, let's see who can find the coolest treasure today. And
Oh,
that way they get sent on missions. I get to fulfill that little urge to like find a treasure of my own. And so it's cost effective. It's not gonna cost you an arm and a leg, and everyone has fun. It's a good family outing. So
I love
there's that. Yeah.
I love that. That's really nice. So the next question I've got is what's the strangest thing that you've ever found in your child's backpack or pocket?
Well, I will say, strangest thing that I fell out of one of my older ones' pockets, something that he shouldn't have and that he did have, and I'm like, that's not okay. I'll just leave that something. I'll let people just imagine what it might have been because it could have been a few different things, I suppose. But finding a shouldn't have that they did have fall out of your teenager's
Oh,
pocket.
that's
That's
so
a
funny.
thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, we'll leave that there. That's what that is.
I think we can leave the rest of the imagination. We've got that. So, Ali, if our community of listeners and supporters could support you in a free transformative ways, what would you ask for? I know that you're working on some amazing things with some exciting projects coming up. So please tell us about that. Tell us about your magazine and
Yeah.
ask away.
Yeah, I think the best way to support the work that I do, that Jack and I do, could be supported is just by tuning in, just by so we have AwareNow Media. So we have a magazine, we have a podcast, we have films, a documentary that we're working on right now about MS, which I was diagnosed about 4 or 5 years now. And so just tuning in, I guess. Um, just to tune in and then to share it forward. I think so. Right now, at the end of this month, it'll be now over 1,400 stories that we've shared. So I suppose my what I would consider a big win is just to check it out, see what you can get from it, and to share it forward. I feel like what a gift it is to see life through someone else's eyes, right? Because in doing that, in hearing someone's story, you're stepping into someone else's world. It's almost like you're living another life. For even for just that moment when you're reading that story. But so that I guess is more of an invitation to come and explore some of these stories that we've shared over the years and that we have, because um, they can be really powerful, and I think it could be such a gift for so many people. So yeah, to treat yourself to some of these stories, because they are phenomenal, and yours included, my dear.
Excellent. It's an honor to be a part of it all. Um, if I don't know why, if on my heart, it feels like I want to give you a little nudge again. Is there any brand, person, or anything that would be special to happen for the organization? Like if this story came across someone's podcast, TV, like they were watching you, what would be like a really nice, big, transformative way they could help? So I definitely respect checking out your work, but is there anything that you've kind of had on your heart for a while? I love that, pay it forward. That's what I really love that you said that. But that's what this is all about. It's like how can,
Yeah.
what's an act of kindness that someone could perform for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're always looking for getting introduced. I feel like that people and opportunities come into your life at the right time for the right reasons. And so I guess it would just be an act of kindness that we would be looking for, is just to find the right brands, the right organizations that want to work with us, that want to support us in our work to raise awareness through storytelling, whether it's sponsoring something or um, partnering for something. But we're always ready to work with people who are in alignment with raising awareness for the causes that tie all of us together through storytelling. So, yeah, find
I
those right partnerships.
That is beautiful. Love that.
Yeah.
Really love that. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, what's one way that you plan to pay it forward as a result of this conversation we're having?
Well, I'm excited to share it. Well, first of all, I'm going to say, so guess what? I suggested your book be called to the two oldest boys. But I think the way I intend to pay forward this conversation is, I mean, sharing is caring. So just to share it out. And I think, again, whether it's a diagnosis like I have with MS, or whether it's a role that we have in our lives, specifically as we're speaking today about motherhood, that we often can feel so isolated. And when it is in sharing these stories that we're instantly not alone anymore. And so these stories, I think, are really important to share. And that's the way we can take care of each other, is by simply doing exactly what we're doing right now, being present with each other, and giving each other this beautiful space that you've created with this podcast, to have
Okay.
conversations like these that aren't had nearly enough.
Oh, that's beautiful. I always struggle to speak after you said those things. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, that's lovely. So what are you proud of yourself for? What are you proud of Allie for?
Mm. I'm proud of being persistent.
Mm,
I'm proud of staying the course, even with other paths would have been easier, would have been more traditional, more accepted, more um, but to stay in the course, that's what I'm most proud of.
I'm proud of you too, Allie. That's beautiful. Thank you for staying the course so I could actually meet you. So I'm very proud of you. What do you want to say sorry to yourself for?
Mm. Probably the word that I've used so often in this conversation. Sorry for not giving you enough grace that you deserved. That's what I would apologize most for. Again, we're the hardest on ourselves. We're the most difficult to forgive. Um, and yet, to fully show up for other people, I think we have more bandwidth to do that. We're able to give others more grace when we first give it to ourselves. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Allie. I know.
I love that. You mentioned it in this answer, but I'm going to ask the question as well. What do you need to forgive yourself for? So although you said sorry, what do you need to forgive and let go of?
Hmm. I need to forgive myself for not being the mom that I feel I should have been. And instead, I have to forgive myself and then be able, that's the only way then to really be able to be a better mother. It's like this series of we have to forgive ourselves over and over and over again. And so we need to continue to forgive, but never to forget. Never forget what you must forget.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What do you want to say thank you to yourself for?
Thank you for finally saying it's okay to need help.
Oh, wow. Yes.
That you don't have to do this on your own. You can't do it on your own. So thank you for finally accepting help and for not feeling weakened by it, but feeling stronger and more empowered from it. I wish I would have accepted help sooner.
It's beautiful. So proud of you. And the final question is, what are you willing to let go of and heal from as a result of this conversation today?
I think from this conversation, I may actually be at a point where I can accept my own good advice and that forgiving, knowing there is no forgetting in this, but forgiving and to say it's okay.
Oh, that's beautiful. Allie, from one mother to another, I want to thank you for being in this space, for making this possible. The platform is what it is because you show up. You know, I can't just sit here by myself. You make the conversation so much deeper. So I want to say thank you so much for being present, for being open, for sharing, for making me laugh. I experienced every emotion on this. We've had the mum look coming out, and it was absolutely remarkable. But I just want to thank you for being present. So thank you very much. Listeners, it's time for you as listeners to take action. Listeners, let's turn words into action. If you're moved by today's story, think of how you can offer some support, no matter how big or small, whether it's through a kind message, a shared resource, connecting up with our guests. Let's build a community that uplifts and empowers each other's dreams. Thank you for tuning in to, I can hardly articulate right now. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Unheard Cries of a Mother podcast. Your stories matter, and together we can create ripple effects of understanding, support, and transformation. If today's conversation resonated with you, please like, share, and comment. Share this episode with somebody you feel that needs to hear it. And remember, as mothers, we are stronger together. Until next time, let's keep lifting each other up and turning unheard cries into powerful voices. Allie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.